In the heart of the forest, a little girl clutched her twins, fear and hunger haunting their eyes. Her tear-streaked face told a story of fear, yet deep inside, a spark of strength refused to die. The twins cried helplessly on the cold forest floor, their tiny hands reaching out for warmth. Shadows whispered through the dense forest, as the little girl held her twins close, trembling at every rustle in the misty night. Through the tangled woods walked Chike, a young villager with kind eyes, unaware his path would soon cross destiny's test. Chike froze in his tracks, eyes widening as he discovered the children hidden in the bushes, fear in their faces, hope in their eyes, and a silent cry for help filling the forest air. From the shadows, a woman's silhouette lingered, her gaze cold, her presence heavy, as if darkness itself watched the frightened children. By a lonely creek, the weary girl tried to soothe her crying twins, their tiny lips trembling as they reached for water under the fading sunset glow. The leaves rustled above, shadows shifting like watchful spirits, while the children hid beneath, their wide eyes filled with trembling fear and fragile hope. With steady arms, Chike carried the weak children through the misty dawn, their fearful cries fading into fragile whispers of trust and relief. At his humble hut, Chike arrived with the frail children in his arms, determination in his step and a faint glimmer of relief on their tired faces. Chike's mother stirred the pot with gentle care, while the hungry children watched, their weary eyes lighting up with fragile hope for comfort. The little girl clung tightly to Chike's arm, her small hands trembling yet unwilling to let go. Fear still lingered in her wide eyes, but beside him, she felt a fragile sense of safety. As chickens wandered along the quiet village path, a faint spark of trust began to glow within her heart. As Chike walked into the village carrying the children, whispers spread like wildfire. Faces turned, eyes widened with shock and awe. Some pointed in disbelief, others murmured with curiosity. The afternoon sun lit the scene, as the villagers wondered what fate had brought to their doorstep. An elderly villager shook his head with deep concern, his wrinkled face heavy with disapproval. Speaking to the younger men, he warned of the burden and mystery behind the abandoned children, his voice carrying both fear and wisdom across the quiet village square. At last, the children sat quietly on the straw mat, their tiny hands clutching wooden spoons. As they tasted the warm porridge, faint smiles softened their weary faces. In that simple meal, they found comfort, safety, and a moment of forgotten sorrow. With steady hands and a heart full of compassion, Chike poured cool water into a clay bowl, gently washing the dirt from the children's fragile skin. The little girl watched him with trusting eyes, while the twins whimpered softly. Each careful motion showed his determination to give them dignity again. Around them, the mud-ground and green plants framed a humble scene of love, healing, and the first steps toward new hope. The respected village elder bent low, his eyes narrowing as he studied the fragile twins. His traditional beads swayed gently as he leaned closer, a mix of disbelief and concern etched across his weathered face. Around them, villagers gathered in silence, while the soft sunlight through the trees cast a glow of reverence, as if destiny itself was unfolding before their eyes. For the first time, laughter softly touched the air. The little girl guided her tiny brothers, their small feet pressing into the warm soil outside Chike's hut. Their eyes, once clouded with fear, now sparked with gentle curiosity. Chickens wandered lazily, trees swayed calmly, and the afternoon sun wrapped them in a glow of fragile, cautious joy. Chike knelt before the little ones, his voice calm yet firm, guiding them with wisdom their young hearts had never known. He spoke of dangers in the forest, of staying close, of trusting the village. The children's wide eyes clung to his every word, fear melting into trust. Behind them, the golden evening light painted the path home, sealing his promise of safety and care. Inside the quiet hut, the newborn twins lay peacefully in a woven basket, their tiny chests rising and falling in calm rhythm. Clean cloth cradled them like a gentle promise of new life. Beside them, their sister watched with protective eyes, no longer trembling, but glowing with hope. Soft morning light touched the clay walls, filling the room with serenity, safety, and the warmth of healing love. As the golden sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the village came alive with gentle peace. Children laughed and played freely, their voices echoing with joy. Villagers moved calmly about their evening chores, while thatched huts glowed in the fading light. At the forest's edge, shadows stretched long, but the heart of the village pulsed with calm, hope, and a renewed sense of community. Along the winding dirt path of the village, Chike walked steadily, the little girl's fragile hand held firmly in his, while one twin rested securely in his arms. Their small footprints pressed into the soft mud, telling the silent story of survival and newfound hope. Villagers paused their work, whispering among themselves, some pointing with curiosity, while others smiled gently in quiet support. Chickens wandered near the huts, plants swayed with the evening breeze, and golden sunlight filtered through the tall trees, casting a warm glow over the scene, as if nature itself blessed their journey. From the small wooden window of Chike's humble hut, the children gazed outward, their young eyes fixed on the forest that once held their deepest fears. The daughter pressed her tiny hands against the frame, her face a mix of wonder and caution, while the twins leaned close, their innocent eyes wide with curiosity. Inside, straw mats and simple wooden furniture surrounded them, but it was the soft golden glow spilling in that filled their hearts with a fragile sense of safety and hope. As the orange-pink sky embraced the quiet village, Chike, his mother, and the children knelt together outside their hut in solemn prayer. The forest loomed in silhouette behind them, no longer a place of terror, but a reminder of survival. With heads bowed and hearts lifted, their voices rose softly, filled with gratitude and hope. Shadows stretched long across the ground, yet within their circle of unity, light and faith glowed stronger, binding them as one family. From the edge of the dense forest, shadows moved with silent intent. For strangers stood watching the village, their ragged clothing stirring in the late afternoon breeze. Their eyes, sharp with anger and burning with greed, followed every movement within the huts. Hidden by trees and shadows, they waited, whispering among themselves, plotting in secrecy. The sunlight pierced through the leaves above, but their presence brought only tension, an ominous warning of danger drawing near. Inside Chike's hut, the quiet air grew heavy as dim evening light slipped through the cracks in the walls. The little girl clutched her twin siblings tightly, her wide eyes fixed on the doorway. A faint rustle outside sent shivers through their fragile hearts. Fear painted every expression, yet silence bound their voices. The soft glow highlighted trembling faces, while long shadows crept across the floor, whispering of danger lurking beyond. Suspense thickened, pressing in from every corner. Chike stood firmly at the entrance of his small hut, a wooden staff gripped tightly in his hand. His eyes scanned the dense forest shadows, every sound sharpening his alertness. The soft evening wind rustled the trees, carrying with it an uneasy silence. His face bore the mark of focus and determination, a quiet promise of protection. Behind him, faint firelight glowed within the hut, where the children rested, their trust placed entirely in his care. The village path lay still, shadows stretching long across the ground. Though alone, Chike's stance spoke of readiness and courage. He was prepared to defend the innocent against whatever threat lurked beyond the trees. In the heart of the village, people gathered in a tense circle. Faces reflected fear, concern, and unease. Chike stood before them, his voice steady yet urgent, explaining the looming danger that crept from the forest's edge. An elderly man frowned deeply, shaking his head with worry, while women clutched their children tightly, their eyes filled with questions. The dirt path beneath their feet carried the weight of silence, broken only by Chike's determined words. Warm sunlight filtered through the huts, casting long shadows across the gathering. The air was thick with tension, but also with unity, as the community faced the truth together. At the edge of the forest, Chike knelt beside the children, his wooden staff resting in the soil as he spoke with calm authority. He pointed toward the winding paths, showing the little girl how to tell safe ground from dangerous terrain. Her eyes followed with focus, her small hand gripping his arm for reassurance. The twins watched closely, wide-eyed with curiosity, yet shivering with fear at every rustling leaf. Chike's voice was steady, guiding them to listen not just with their ears, but with their hearts, to the whispers of the forest. Around them, soft light filtered through leaves, casting a gentle glow on their determined faces. It was a lesson of caution, survival, and trust. Near the forest's edge, the little girl, now a little older and stronger, stood tall with a simple stick clenched firmly in her hands. Her bare feet pressed against the rough soil, her body leaning slightly forward in a stance of protection. Behind her, the twins sat close together, their small eyes watching her with quiet trust. Though her face showed traces of fear, it was courage that shone brighter, an early spark of resilience born from hardship. The forest loomed in shadows, whispering with unseen dangers, yet she did not step back. Golden sunlight streamed between the trees, touching her determined gaze, marking her first stand as a guardian, ready to shield her siblings at any cost. Under the cold glow of the full moon, a shadow slipped quietly through the misty forest, every movement calculated and cautious. The tall silhouette crept closer to the village edge, feet brushing lightly against the damp soil, careful not to make a sound. Branches swayed above, casting restless shadows that stretched across the ground, blurring with his figure. The huts in the distance glowed faintly with dying firelight, unaware of the danger drawing near. Each step carried suspense, each breath thick with tension, as if the forest itself held its silence, watching. Imminent danger lingered in the night air, a storm building quietly in the dark. Moonlight spilled across the village path as Chike stepped forward, his stance firm, his grip steady on the wooden staff. His eyes burned with determination, refusing to yield, even as the shadowy intruders emerged from the trees. Behind him, the children clung together, peeking out with wide, fearful eyes, their small bodies trembling but shielded by his presence. The soft night air carried the rustle of leaves, every sound sharpening the tension that gripped the scene. The huts stood silent, bathed in pale light, as if the whole village held its breath. In that moment, Chike was not just a guardian, he was a wall of courage standing against the unknown, ready to defend with everything he had. Inside the dimly lit hut, the children huddled together in a trembling corner, the daughter clutching her twin siblings tightly against her chest. Their fragile breaths rose and fell in unsteady rhythm, eyes wide with fear, yet glimmering with trust in Chike's unseen presence beyond the door. The thin blanket wrapped around them could not shield them from the chill of dread. Yet the girl's small arms created a fortress of comfort. Shadows crawled along the clay walls, whispering of danger outside, but within their fragile embrace, a silent bond of love and hope held them together. In that tense stillness, fear and faith intertwined, making the moment achingly human, fragile, and deeply moving. In the heart of the village square, the elderly man, his face carved with lines of age and wisdom, lifted a trembling hand toward the dark forest beyond. His voice carried urgency, warning Chike and the gathered villagers of unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. Mothers clutched their children closer, men exchanged uneasy glances, and silence fell heavy in the warm afternoon air. The elder's eyes, sharp yet burdened, spoke of knowledge only years of hardship could give. His words were not of fear alone, but of caution born from experience. As the villagers leaned in to listen, the weight of his warning pressed upon every heart, reminding them that unity and vigilance were their only shield. At the forest's quiet edge, Chike knelt low, his steady hands guiding the children with care. His voice was calm yet firm as he showed them how to move softly, placing each step with caution on the soil scattered with leaves and stones. The daughter, her small face focused, mirrored his every motion, learning the rhythm of silence and alertness. The twins, wide-eyed, watched closely, their young minds absorbing the lesson. Around them, branches swayed gently, shadows shifting with the wind, as if the forest itself listened. This was no ordinary teaching. It was preparation born of danger, a shield of knowledge Chike hoped would keep them safe. In their eyes, fear blended with trust, as the seeds of resilience began to grow. As the children walked carefully near the forest's edge, the calm air suddenly shifted. From deep within the dense trees came a sharp rustling, followed by distant animal cries that echoed through the mist. The daughter froze, clutching her younger siblings, her wide eyes filled with fear. The twins huddled close, their small bodies trembling as shadows seemed to move across the ground. Every leaf, every sound carried a weight of danger, pressing upon their fragile hearts. The forest, alive with whispers and unseen movements, wrapped them in suspense. In that moment, their breaths grew shallow, their steps uncertain. Fear clung tightly, reminding them how close danger always lingered in the silence of the wild. As dusk painted the forest in muted shades of orange and shadow, Chike's heart pounded with fear. His voice broke through the stillness, calling desperately for his daughter's name, each cry echoing into the vast wilderness. Branches tore at his arms as he pushed through the thick undergrowth, his eyes scanning frantically, refusing to surrender to despair. The leaves rustled under his hurried steps, the fading light deepening his panic. Every sound, every flicker of movement, carried the possibility of finding her, or losing her forever. Determination burned in his eyes as he ran deeper, driven by love, fear, and an unshakable need to protect his child. In the quiet of the forest's clearing, tension crackled like fire in dry leaves. The little girl, though trembling, stood her ground, clutching a small branch as if it were her shield. Her wide eyes revealed both fear and courage, refusing to bow to the angry figures before her, relatives of her late mother, their faces twisted with greed and bitterness. The soft evening light fell across the scene, casting long shadows that mirrored the danger surrounding her. Every heartbeat thundered like a drum of defiance, every breath a whisper of bravery. Though small and vulnerable, her spirit blazed, daring them to see she was no longer alone, daring them to test her strength. Under the pale glow of the moon, the forest became a stage of fear and defiance. Chike stood at the center, his grip firm on the wooden staff, his eyes locked on the angry figures emerging from the shadows. Their faces burned with rage and greed, yet he did not flinch. Behind him, the children huddled together, trembling, their small hands clinging tightly to one another. The silence of the night was broken only by rustling leaves and pounding hearts. Shadows danced across the trees, painting the confrontation in sharp contrasts of light and darkness. In that tense moment, courage faced fear, and a father's resolve stood unshaken against the storm gathering before him. Her small frame trembled, yet her spirit burned with defiance. In the dim light of the moon, the 7-year-old girl gripped a fragile branch as though it were a mighty spear. Her wide eyes glistened, not only with fear but with fierce determination. Mist curled around her like a veil, the night pressing close, yet she did not retreat. Sweat and tears traced her young face, catching the silver glow of moonlight, each drop a mark of her struggle. Before her loomed danger in human form, yet her gaze refused to falter. In that fragile moment, a child became a guardian, her courage shining brighter than the shadows that sought to consume her. Chike's body stood as an unshakable wall between danger and the little ones behind him. His muscles tightened, every vein alive with purpose, every breath carrying the weight of protection. The moonlight cut across his face, sharpening the fire in his eyes, while shadows danced like enemies waiting to strike. With a wooden staff gripped firmly in his hand, he blocked the path of those who dared threaten his children. The forest floor crunched under his steady stance, leaves and branches bearing witness to his courage. Fierce determination radiated from him, a father's vow carved into the night. No harm would pass while he still drew breath. From the depths of the misty forest, footsteps broke the tense silence. A small group of villagers emerged, their faces marked with alarm but burning with courage. Men and women, young and old, rushed toward the clearing, answering the unspoken call of unity. Moonlight stretched their shadows across the ground, as if the forest itself carried them forward. Fear was present, but it was held tightly beneath their bravery. They came not as individuals, but as one, neighbors, family, protectors. In that moment, the villagers' presence ignited hope, a reminder that even in the darkest night, community stood stronger than fear. In the quiet corner of the forest clearing, 2 tiny figures clung desperately to their sister. The twins' small hands gripped her clothes with trembling strength, their wide eyes reflecting both fear and trust. The faint moonlight brushed across their innocent faces, softening the shadows that surrounded them. Though their bodies shook with uncertainty, their hearts sought safety in the embrace of their sister. In their silence lay a plea, unspoken yet powerful, an anchor of hope in the chaos. Vulnerable yet bound together, the children became the fragile light holding firm against the darkness pressing in. From the shadows of the forest, the attackers lunged forward, their silhouettes cutting sharply against the moonlit night. The ground trembled beneath their hurried steps, scattering leaves and mud into the air. With every stride, danger drew closer, wrapping the clearing in an unshakable suspense. Chike braced himself, wooden staff clenched firmly, standing like a shield between the children and the chaos racing toward them. Fear rippled through the little ones, yet their eyes clung to him with desperate faith. The night thickened, breaths grew heavy, and the clash between courage and menace loomed, moments away from erupting into fierce struggle. Chike moved with sharp precision, every step measured, every strike of his staff deliberate. The attackers lunged, but he slipped past their blows, twisting through the shadows like a seasoned warrior. His staff clashed against theirs, wood striking with a crack that echoed through the misty forest. Focus burned in his eyes, unwavering, as he used the terrain to his advantage. Roots, branches, and darkness itself became his allies. The children watched in breathless silence, their fear mixing with awe. Against overwhelming force, Chike's strength was not just in his arms, but in his resolve to protect. Each move carried intensity, each moment a battle for survival. Though fear trembled in her small frame, the daughter stood her ground, clutching a stick as if it were a mighty weapon. Her eyes, wide yet burning with courage, fixed on the figures before her. Behind her, the twins pressed close, their tiny hands holding on for safety. The forest clearing seemed to pause, moonlight spilling across her face, leaves whispering in the wind, shadows deepening the tension. In that fragile moment, she was no longer just a child but a shield, her bravery rising above fear. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum of defiance, declaring silently that she would not step aside. The night air shifted as villagers emerged from the shadows, one by one, until a full circle enclosed the intruders. Faces lit by moonlight carried the strength of unity and the weight of justice. Chike stood at the front, staff firm in his grip, his presence commanding silence. The attackers, once bold, now found themselves trapped, surrounded by the very people they sought to harm. Trees loomed tall, mist curled low, and the forest seemed to bear witness to this turning tide. What had begun as fear now burned into resolve. Together, the village rose as one, their courage a shield, their unity a weapon no enemy could break. The once bold intruders now stumbled back, their shadows scattering like frightened animals into the depths of the dark forest. The moonlight revealed only their hurried steps, heavy with fear and defeat. Branches cracked beneath their feet, leaves swirled in the night air, carrying away the last traces of their arrogance. Behind them, the villagers stood tall, their unity shining brighter than the pale light above. Chike, staff still in hand, exhaled slowly, his heart steady with both relief and triumph. In that moment, the forest was no longer a place of fear. It echoed with victory, and with the unshakable strength of a people who chose courage over despair. The once bold intruders now stumbled back, their shadows scattering like frightened animals into the depths of the dark forest. The moonlight revealed only their hurried steps, heavy with fear and defeat. Branches cracked beneath their feet, leaves swirled in the night air, carrying away the last traces of their arrogance. Behind them, the villagers stood tall, their unity shining brighter than the pale light above. Chike, staff still in hand, exhaled slowly, his heart steady with both relief and triumph. In that moment, the forest was no longer a place of fear. It echoed with victory, and with the unshakable strength of a people who chose courage over despair. In the tender glow of dawn, the daughter leapt into Chike's arms, her tears soaking his shoulder as her small hands clung tightly to him. The twins huddled close, their tired eyes shutting in complete trust, safe within the circle of his embrace. For a long moment, the forest, once filled with shadows and fear, felt silent and gentle, as if it too honored their survival. Chike's eyes closed, his spirit whispering thanks for the strength that carried them through. Love bound them tighter than fear ever could, and in that embrace, they found not just safety but the promise of brighter days ahead. As the first golden rays of dawn pierced through the mist, the forest transformed from a place of fear into one of peace. Chike stood tall, his children gathered closely by his side, while the villagers watched with pride and relief. The night's terror had passed, leaving behind not scars but strength. In the quiet rustle of leaves, there was a promise of new beginnings. Unity had conquered fear, and love had guarded the innocent. Together, they faced the darkness, and together, they welcomed the light of hope. The forest, once silent witness to danger, now stood as a symbol of resilience and victory. Morning sunlight bathed the village yard as laughter filled the air. The daughter, now 7, ran barefoot across the soft soil, her laughter mingling with the giggles of the twins. Their tiny feet kicked up dust as they chased one another, carefree and full of life. Chickens pecked nearby, huts stood warm and steady, and small plants swayed gently in the breeze. For the first time in many moons, the weight of fear seemed distant, replaced by joy and safety. In that moment, surrounded by simple beauty, the children's hearts found healing in play, their smiles a promise of hope renewed. Under the gentle glow of the afternoon sun, Chike knelt beside his children, his voice steady and filled with care. He traced the dirt path with his hand, pointing to small plants and stones, teaching them how to walk safely, how to listen to the whispers of the earth. The daughter's eyes shone with focus, the twins leaned closer, eager yet curious, their young minds soaking in each word. Around them, huts stood quietly, trees swayed in the soft breeze, as if the whole village watched this tender moment. In his patient teaching, love and protection became lessons stronger than any danger lurking beyond. Inside the quiet hut, the twins rested peacefully in their woven basket, wrapped in soft cloth, their tiny chests rising and falling with calm breaths. The afternoon light streamed gently through the small window, painting golden patterns on the clay walls and straw mats. Beside them, their sister sat close, her young eyes wide with care, watching over them as if she were their little guardian. The silence carried a warmth, a rare moment of stillness after days of fear. In that fragile peace, love wrapped around them stronger than walls, reminding that family's bond was their greatest shield against the world. At the edge of the forest, the young daughter stood tall, her small hands firmly holding those of the twins. A gentle smile lit her face, not of playfulness, but of newfound courage. Behind her, the village huts rested in the golden glow of sunlight, while the forest loomed quietly ahead. Her eyes reflected both hope and determination, as though she already carried the spirit of a protector. The twins, trusting her completely, leaned close, their innocence safe within her bravery. In that moment, she was more than a child. She was a symbol of resilience, a promise of strength for the days to come. Through the warm glow of the late afternoon, Chike walked steadily, holding his daughter's hand, while the twins toddled beside her. Villagers paused, watching with admiration and quiet smiles, some pointing in acknowledgement of their courage. Huts lined the dirt path, trees swayed gently, and chickens wandered freely, adding life to the scene. The children's faces glowed with trust and joy, their steps light with newfound safety. In this simple walk, the village became a backdrop of unity and support, a living reminder that courage and community together could overcome even the darkest past. In the heart of the village square, the elderly man raised his hand proudly toward Chike and the children, a warm smile lighting his aged face. His eyes shone with admiration and gratitude, acknowledging the courage and unwavering care Chike had shown. Around them, huts glowed softly in the golden afternoon light, villagers pausing to witness the moment. Respect and appreciation filled the air, a silent chorus celebrating heroism. Chike's protective efforts were no longer hidden. The community recognized him as a guardian, a shield, and a symbol of hope, his bravery inspiring everyone who saw him that day. At the forest's edge, the daughter led the twins with careful hands, each step measured yet filled with curiosity. Sunlight filtered through the dense trees, casting playful shadows across the soil and leaves. Their faces glowed with cautious confidence, the fear of past dangers replaced by the lessons Chike had patiently taught them. Every rustle of leaves and glimpse of sunlight became a part of their learning, a step toward independence. In this serene moment, the forest transformed from a place of fear into a playground of growth, where courage and knowledge walked hand in hand with innocence. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold and rose, Chike, his mother, and the children gathered outside their hut on straw mats. They shared simple food, laughter mingling with soft conversation, a melody of relief and unity. The daughter and twins leaned close, their small hands reaching for warmth and care, while Chike's watchful eyes held quiet pride. Huts and trees glowed softly in the fading light, reflecting the peace that had returned to their lives. In that moment, family was everything, a bond stronger than fear, brighter than any sunset, and the heart of their healing journey. Under the warm morning sun, the daughter led her younger siblings along the village path, carrying a small container of water. The twins followed closely, their tiny hands reaching out to steady her, their faces showing budding responsibility and care. Around them, other children played freely. Huts and trees basked in soft sunlight, and shadows danced gently across the ground. In this simple act, the children learned the power of helping others, understanding that courage and kindness could grow hand in hand. Their laughter and focused steps marked a new chapter of compassion and maturity. Seated by the hut's small window, the daughter gazed thoughtfully toward the forest, her eyes calm yet reflective. The twin babies slept peacefully beside her, their soft breaths a gentle rhythm in the quiet morning. Sunlight filtered through the wooden frames, casting delicate patterns on the straw mats and walls. In her stillness, she absorbed the lessons of courage, care, and resilience that had carried them through danger. The forest, once a place of fear, now seemed full of promise. In this serene moment, hope bloomed quietly, a reminder that past struggles had shaped strength, and each new day held the possibility of peace. In the heart of the village, Chike gathered a group of children around him, their eyes wide with curiosity and focus. He demonstrated survival skills, how to read the land, listen to the forest, and act with care, blending practical lessons with kindness. Warm sunlight bathed the open village space, illuminating huts and trees, as every child absorbed his words with admiration. Through patience and guidance, Chike became more than a protector. He became a mentor and leader. In that moment, the seeds of courage, wisdom, and compassion were planted, shaping a new generation ready to face the world with both strength and heart. The village square erupted with joy as villagers celebrated the children's safety and recovery. Laughter and music mingled with the warm glow of the setting sun, casting long, playful shadows across the huts and dirt paths. The daughter and twins joined in, their faces radiant with relief and happiness, dancing and clapping alongside their neighbors. Food was shared, hands reached out in generosity, and the sense of community overflowed. In that jubilant moment, the village breathed as one, united in love and gratitude, a vivid testament to resilience, hope, and the unbreakable bonds that bound them all together. As dawn broke over the village, golden sunlight bathed every hut, tree, and path in a warm, peaceful glow. The daughter stood with the twins, holding their hands, while Chike and the villagers moved around them in harmony, smiles of relief and joy on every face. Beyond, the forest edge stood quietly, a reminder of past trials now behind them. In this serene moment, courage had triumphed, love had protected, and community had healed. The village, alive with hope, whispered a timeless lesson. Bravery, compassion, and unity can overcome even the darkest challenges.